2025 didn't ease its way in. It arrived loud, heavy, and unforgiving, like a sudden silence after a lifetime of applause. Almost immediately, the entertainment world began losing voices that had shaped entire generations. Directors who redefined cinema, actors who became part of our childhood, musicians who turned chaos into art, leaders who changed how the world spoke to itself. It felt relentless. One headline after another, one goodbye stacked on top of the last. So today, we pause, not to sensationalize, not to speculate, but to remember. These are the lives, legacies, and stories of the icons we lost in 2025. David Lynch, the man who made the strange beautiful. The year's first major loss came from one of the most unconventional minds cinema has ever known. On January 15th, filmmaker David Lynch passed away at the age of 79. Lynch was never interested in making sense in the traditional way. He didn't explain his work. He didn't soften it. He trusted the audience to feel it or reject it. And somehow, that confidence turned surrealism into mainstream art. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest, with chronic respiratory issues and dehydration listed as contributing factors. Lynch had been open for years about his health struggles, many of which traced back to a lifelong habit of smoking, something he once described as both a comfort and a curse. But to reduce David Lynch to medical details would be a mistake. This was the man who gave us Eraserhead, a film so unsettling it redefined what independent cinema could be. He followed it with The Elephant Man, proving he could move hearts just as powerfully as he disturbed minds. Then came Blue Velvet, a glossy nightmare hiding rot beneath suburbia. And then, Twin Peaks, a television series that shouldn't have worked. Soap opera melodrama mixed with murder mystery, supernatural horror, cherry pie, and coffee obsessions, yet it changed television forever. Beyond filmmaking, Lynch was a painter, photographer, musician, and daily weather reporter on YouTube. Yes, weather reporter, every morning, calmly predicting blue skies while the rest of the world spiraled. He was also deeply devoted to transcendental meditation, crediting it with unlocking his creativity and emotional balance. Through the David Lynch Foundation, he spent decades bringing meditation to students, veterans, and trauma survivors. His personal life mirrored his work, layered, unpredictable, deeply human. He married 4 times, had children late in life, and lived entirely on his own timeline. When he died, his family said the world felt emptier, and for many, it truly did. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, a tragic silence. In February, Hollywood was shaken by a story that felt less like a headline and more like a mystery. Legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found dead in their Santa Fe home. The details were heartbreaking. Betsy, 62, passed away first after contracting a rare illness linked to rodent exposure. Hackman, 95, followed roughly a week later due to complications from severe heart disease and advanced Alzheimer's. Their bodies were not discovered until days later. Adding to the confusion and sorrow was the discovery that one of their dogs had also died, while 2 others survived. There were no signs of forced entry, no obvious trauma, just silence. Gene Hackman's career spanned decades and genres. From The French Connection to Unforgiven, from Superman to countless unforgettable performances, he won 2 Academy Awards and commanded every scene he entered. But later in life, Hackman stepped away from Hollywood completely. He chose privacy, quiet, distance. Betsy Arakawa, a classically trained pianist, became his anchor. Friends described her as his protector, caregiver, and greatest support. They married in 1991 and lived far from the spotlight. Hackman had children from a previous marriage, but reports suggested strained relationships in his later years. Their deaths raised difficult questions about aging, isolation, and love behind closed doors. Whatever the answers, their passing remains one of 2025's most haunting moments. Michelle Trachtenberg, a childhood star, gone too soon. Just weeks later, the world lost someone who felt impossibly young. Michelle Trachtenberg was found dead in her New York City apartment on February 26th. She was only 39. Authorities reported no foul play. The official cause of death was complications related to diabetes, compounded by recent major health struggles, including a liver transplant. Fans had noticed changes in her appearance months earlier: weight loss, pallor, fatigue. When concerns were voiced online, Michelle responded defensively, insisting she was fine. Behind the scenes, she wasn't. Michelle began acting as a child, appearing in commercials before landing her breakout role in Harriet the Spy. But it was her portrayal of Dawn Summers on Buffy the Vampire Slayer that made her a household name. As she grew older, she transitioned into darker, more complex roles, most memorably as Georgina Sparks on Gossip Girl. She also found new purpose producing and hosting true crime projects later in life. At the time of her death, she was in a long-term relationship with talent agent Jay Cohen. Just weeks earlier, she'd shared a loving Valentine's post. Her passing reminded many of the quiet pressure child stars carry, and how success doesn't protect against suffering. Val Kilmer, a fighter until the end. In April, another cinematic force was lost. Val Kilmer died at 65 after complications from pneumonia, following a long and public battle with throat cancer. Kilmer refused to disappear quietly. Though the disease damaged his voice and health, he continued working, adapting, and creating. His return in Top Gun: Maverick, even without dialogue, was one of the film's most emotional moments. Kilmer's career was electric. From Top Secret to The Doors, from Iceman to Batman, he brought intensity, unpredictability, and magnetism to every role. Off-screen, he was known to be complex, sometimes difficult, but fiercely committed to his craft. His personal life was just as storied. He was romantically linked to several high-profile figures and married once, to actress Joanne Whalley. They shared 2 children, who became the center of his world after their divorce. In his final years, Kilmer spoke openly about mortality, faith, and gratitude. He didn't win every battle, but he never stopped fighting. Pope Francis. The end of an era. In April, the loss extended beyond entertainment. Pope Francis, the first Latin American and Jesuit pope, died at 88 after suffering a massive stroke. What made his death particularly striking was its timing. Just one day earlier, on Easter Sunday, he had appeared publicly, blessing crowds from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. No one knew it would be his final appearance. Francis was never a conventional pope. He rejected luxury, emphasized compassion, and pushed the Catholic Church to confront issues like poverty, migration, climate change, and internal corruption. Whether praised or criticized, he undeniably shifted the tone of an institution known for resisting change. His passing felt like the closing of a chapter in global history, not just religious history. Michael Madsen, the tough guy with a broken heart. In July, Hollywood lost one of its most recognizable faces. Michael Madsen died at 67 after heart failure. With over 300 film and television credits, Madsen wasn't just prolific, he was iconic. Quentin Tarantino built some of his most unforgettable characters around him, from Reservoir Dogs to Kill Bill. Behind the tough exterior, Madsen struggled deeply. Alcoholism, legal troubles, and personal heartbreak followed him for years. The most devastating blow came in 2022, when his son took his own life, a loss that never left him. Despite the chaos, Madsen adored his children and spoke openly about wanting peace in his later years. He was working on independent films and preparing a poetry book at the time of his death. He left behind a complicated legacy, raw, flawed, and unforgettable. Julian McMahon. Quiet strength, lasting impact. Later that summer, fans mourned Julian McMahon, who passed away at 56 after battling cancer privately. Best known for roles in Charmed, Fantastic Four, and FBI, Most Wanted, McMahon was a presence that felt effortless yet commanding. Colleagues described him as generous, kind, and deeply supportive, especially toward women he worked alongside. His personal life included multiple marriages, a daughter he adored, and a long-term partnership he kept largely out of the public eye. McMahon reminded audiences that not all stars shine loudly. Some glow steadily and are missed just as deeply. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, takes his final bow. On July 22nd, the world said goodbye to a legend. Ozzy Osbourne died at 76 after cardiac arrest, following years of health complications, including Parkinson's disease. Just weeks earlier, he reunited with Black Sabbath for a final farewell performance, a moment that now feels historic. Ozzy was chaos incarnate. He shocked audiences, terrified critics, and somehow became a beloved cultural figure. Beyond the stage antics, he was also a devoted father, a reality TV star, and a survivor. His marriage to Sharon Osbourne lasted decades through scandals, rehabs, and reinventions. She was his manager, partner, and lifeline. Ozzy lived loudly and left just as loudly. Hulk Hogan, the face of a generation. 2 days later, another icon fell. Hulk Hogan died at 71 after cardiac arrest. Hogan transformed professional wrestling into global pop culture. Hulkamania wasn't just a gimmick, it was a movement. Beyond the ring, Hogan ventured into films, television, and politics. His personal life was turbulent, marked by multiple marriages and public controversies, but in his later years, he appeared to find peace with his wife, Sky Daly. For millions, Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was childhood, and the losses continued. As the year went on, the list grew longer. Beloved actors, fashion legends, cultural pioneers, visionaries who shaped art, music, film, and faith. Each loss felt heavier because it followed another. The legacy left behind, 2025 will be remembered as a year of goodbyes. But legacies don't end with death. They live on in the films we rewatch, the music we replay, the ideas that continue shaping culture long after their creators are gone. So while this year took much from the world, it also reminded us why these figures mattered in the first place. And that is how they should be remembered.